Welcome to another episode of Rapid Fire Insights. I'm your host, Dave McCall, and I'm here with my co host, Chris Hanna.
Hello, everyone.
Today, we are very privileged to have as our guest Arthur Barbut, the founder of the Windsor Accelerator, the Business Accelerator. Businessman, educator, artist. He's a multi talented individual, and we're really excited to talk to him today.
You're too kind, David. You're too kind.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely, Arthur. You do a lot in the city. But what I really want to kind of do is let people know your journey is really interesting. It's been very up and down and here and there. And just, can you give us some highlights of kind of how you what brought you into the accelerator arena and some of the challenges and some of the really exciting things that you've done?
So it's an interesting story. I never pictured myself as a entrepreneur, and I was working at the university, and then they opened up this thing called the Accelerator downtown, and they're looking for a managing, business animator at that time. And then so I started there. It was 11 years ago in March. So it's gonna be 12 years for me next March. So I walked in. It was downtown 720 Olette, and it was basically an empty building. It was a lovely. Brand new refurbished with all the Mac computers, but I think there was like 4 companies in there, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, and at the time I was doing my doctorate, looking at university president leadership styles, so transformational versus transactional leadership. And so as soon as I stepped in the new role at the Accelerator, I'm like, well, I really don't care about this, university presidents. I'm like, let me figure out this whole business incubator entrepreneurship. I had some experience running a business before. I had run a couple of businesses, a recruiting business where we're sending teachers to South Korea because I had taught there myself personally. And my wife and I ran a diaper service. The first, I think it was cloth diaper service in Windsor because we wanted our kids to have cloth diapers versus disposable. So I had been introduced to it, but not in the, how you build an ecosystem. So it's been an incredible journey. And 5 years ago, we bought the building on Shepherd and Howard.
Oh, yeah. Now, Chris, I don't know if you've ever been there, but Arthur's building is 55,000 square feet. It has how many businesses in it?
Probably about 30, and then we have a whole bunch of virtual. But the cool thing is, like, we did it ourselves. We did it with investor money from the community. We have no government funding. So I remember, like, on closing day, we had to raise like $60,000 in 24 hours. And I remember
it's just been a bootstrap situation.
Absolutely. So we kind of like eat our own cooking, right? Because I think it's ultimately, how are you going to support entrepreneurs and help them through the journey if you haven't sort of been through the ups and downs yourself? So you got
to go through the wars. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, with that many businesses all working in kind of close proximity to each other, I imagine there's just like even a lot of collaboration that sometimes happens.
Absolutely. And that was the focus of my actual doctoral dissertation. I was looking at how business incubators can create social capital for the companies that are in the ecosystem. So how do you build a culture of collaboration? How do you build trust? How do you convince people that could potentially be competing to actually work together? Because, everybody's at the starting stage, and, you're lacking resources, you're lacking knowledge. So the more you can collaborate, the bigger projects you can take on, and the faster you can grow. And I think that was one of the key things that we keep pushing at the Accelerator. It's like, the rising tide lifts all boats, right? The more we can collaborate, the more we can genuinely trust and work towards supporting each other, the faster we all succeed and get to our, we all have different goals in our lives, but working together, we'll each get to our goal faster.
Well, I know that one of the collaborations you're working on is Petite Homes.
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean, that's just really an exciting event here, for the future, not only of Windsor, but just, for all of, Ontario. Can you give us a little detail about kind of how that came about?
Absolutely. I think, when you look at the housing crisis in Canada and Ontario specifically, I mean, Windsor alone, I also teach at the college. So a lot of my students are constantly looking for different options, better options for housing. But Petite Homes is a tiny home company, and it's founded by Michael Hoppy, who's a graduate, who's in San Francisco, but also comes back regularly and works out of the Accelerator. Christopher Prezi, who's the president of our board of the Accelerator, and myself. And over time, over the last 8 years, we built a really strong relationship. Everybody brought a different set of skill sets together, and we were able to quickly bring this company together, then bring other people from the ecosystem. into it, and it's growing really quickly. And I think going through all the trials and tribulations and going through all the mistakes has helped us build this much quicker and faster, because we kind of know, you have the lawyers to incorporate, you have the accountants to do the bookkeeping, you have, all the pieces are there. So if you have people that you trust and you enjoy working with, I think that's a critical component too. You really want to, it's dangerous to get into business with friends. So you really have to respect each other, enjoy each other's company, and be able to have honest conversations, because things will sometimes,
they'll happen. Well, I know the Accelerator has done a lot in the area. What's the amount of money that the Accelerator, through working with businesses, has pumped into the economy?
So that's a great question. In the last 12 years, I think, and I run an economic impact report. Well, I used to every year, and then COVID hit, and I just did one for 2021, I think. So I think since we started in 2011, it's been over $30 million of economic impact in the community. We've worked with over 250 businesses since we started.
Oh, wonderful.
And 500 plus jobs, conservatively. Again, this is just from, I don't actually extrapolate the numbers. I just use the people that respond. So generally we have, 20 to 25% response rate. So the numbers are probably much greater, but we want to, keep it realistic, and it's better to, not blow your horn too much, be conservative. Yeah. But
how do you keep it all straight with everything that you've got going on? Because you talk about petite homes, you've got stuff with the Accelerator, you're teaching at the college. Serial entrepreneurs have a lot of stuff that's just always going. How do you keep everything organized and flowing, and even what advice would you give for other people who may have that similar mindset to you?
So that great question, Chris. So I work a lot on myself and the mindset. It's part of the thing we try to impart with all of our members and the people that we work with, clients at the Accelerator. But it's really identifying great people around you to support you, because you can't do everything yourself. So knowing your strengths and weaknesses, bringing people in to complement you where you are not so strong. And that way everybody feels like a genius, right? Because everybody's doing what they're really great at. And then constantly being able to keep things in perspective and understand that, like the Stoics explain, right? This is expect the unexpected, change is the only constant, and you will deal with difficulties, but having the right mindset and the right people around you, because you have to have those tough conversations. And if I go and talk to even my parents, for example, they're like, you're crazy. They grew up in communist Romania. They're like, why'd you quit the university? Go get a secure job. Don't do this. It's nuts. So I have to talk to people who are like-minded, who understand me and are like, well, okay, let's get through today. And actually just recently I had a phone call from one of our clients, and he was like having bit of an existential crisis, right? So you have the conversation.
Which we all have.
Yeah, exactly, right? But we understand each other. We speak the same language. We've all been there. And after an hour, he's like, okay, that's exactly what I needed. I'm good, ready to go.
See, that's what's great about the Accelerators. You've got some place where you can come to, where you've got people who have experience, where you've got a multitude of talented individuals that can reach out and try and help you with your problems. If a new company comes to you and says, okay, we're just brand new, just what's the first thing you recommend to them? They've just come in the door and said, help us.
Well, I think the first thing you do in general, what we do with everybody is actually sit down and have like a discovery session, right? Be like, okay, where are you at? What are you trying to accomplish? Why are you trying to accomplish this, right? Don't be an entrepreneur just because you saw it on Instagram or whatever. Some guy rented a Lambo and it's like, hey, living my best life. Ideally, you have some bigger purpose that's driving you, a bigger mission, because it's let's be honest, it's really tough. Like, we sell entrepreneurship like it's this really fun, easy thing to do. You get to control your own schedule. I'm like, yeah, you get to choose which 12 to 14 hours you work per day, right? So, I mean,
that is true.
But there's, the work is there. Who is it? Tom Boyle said it best. He's like, the pain is guaranteed, the success isn't, right? So you really want to find out that that's what they really want to do, and they're committed to it. Do you have the right resources? Do you have the right funding to take you to where you want to go? And if not, let's have a conversation of how we get there, right? So we kind of create a roadmap for them. And for some, businesses, we might not be the right resource, right? So we may send them to our partners at Small Business Center or at WeTech or Epicenter. So, depending where they're at, ideally we deal with like companies that already somewhat, they're generating profits. They've got some revenue coming in. So
you ask them the big questions.
Absolutely. Well, they have to think about it themselves, right? If you're going to fly past that, It's like, you guys are passionate about what you do. That's why you do it, right? If you weren't, this wouldn't be fun. We wouldn't be enjoying ourselves. You're just doing it to do it, right? So I think that's key.
Well, I think that's a great segue, I think, into our next part of what we're going to go through. We're going to have some fun with you now, rapid fire style. You're the guy with the accelerator that is all about speed, and we're going to give some questions to you really quick, really fast. First thing that kind of pops in your head. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. Question number 1. How would you describe your leadership style in one word?
Inclusive. I want to get everybody on board.
What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self before ever jumping into business?
Learn on somebody else's dime.
I like that one. What's one business book that everyone should read?
I like The Alchemist. I'm kind of fond of it, so I give it to everybody who starts off.
What's a common misconception about starting a business?
That it's easy and it's fun. It is that too, but it's also hard and painful.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, The Matrix.
Similar vein, what's your favorite song?
Pink Floyd, The Wall.
What's an emerging trend right now in technology that you think all entrepreneurs should keep an eye on?
Obviously, AI is huge, and I think I'm putting my kids into robotics. So anybody who's looking to do something for their kids, let them learn how to code. Let them be involved with the highest level of technology. So definitely AI and robotics.
Yeah. If you could have dinner with one entrepreneur, business leader,
Steve Jobs,
live or dead, you got it, Steve Jobs. Okay. How do you rejuvenate after a long week?
Ice bath. So I think that's, part of the mindset is also taking care of your body as well. So I think it's important to have like the meditation routine, exercise, and definitely cold showers and ice bath have been a lifesaver for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
I'd love to learn more about that. How do you prioritize tasks when everything seems urgent?
I utilize the Pareto principle and Eisenhower matrix. So I do my to-do list, and I understand that 80% of my outcomes will come from 20% of my actions, and then I go through what's important and urgent and focus on those. Then you've got your important and not urgent, so you can delegate those, and then you can look at what's urgent and not important, and you can actually delegate those, and then the other ones that are important, and then you put them on a to-do list. You schedule them for later. So I do that with everything. I always make a to-do list, and then I number what I have to do. And generally, if you can do your top 3 things on the day, you're good.
You're good to go. Exactly. Yeah. What's a tool or technology that you cannot live without?
Probably my phone and my calendar. Like, the calendar's huge. Yeah. Like, it keeps me on check. I'm not the most organized person, so if I didn't have reminders coming from you and Dave and whatnot, I probably miss meetings and calls.
You wake up tomorrow with a superpower. What's that superpower that you would love to have?
Share positive energy with everybody. Just be able to lift the mood and get people more positive. I think we're in a kind of a fucked up period in the world right now, and I think we need more positivity. I think we need people to support each other more, and I think the more energy and positivity we bring, the more that has a ripple effect for the people around us. So,
oh, that's beautiful. If you could create a new holiday, what would it be called, and why would people celebrate it?
I would have Entrepreneur Day, where everything is going to be revolved around entrepreneurs and celebrating them and going to support them. And entrepreneurs, Talim Nasser said it beautifully. He said, entrepreneurs are the heroes of our society. They fail for everybody else. So, without entrepreneurs, you're never going to have dramatic change that's going to change the world, right? You can't deal with the current issues doing things the way we've done for the last 100 years.
Oh, I love that. If your emotions were represented by a color, what color would that be?
Running between blue and red. If I'm calm, blue. If I'm not calm, red.
Yeah. So, if you had a personal mascot, what would it be and why?
I'm sorry, if I had a personal mascot?
Personal mascot, yeah.
Oh, Black Panther.
Nice. And last question, if you were going to write a message in a bottle that future generations would find, what would that message be and why?
Just believe in yourself. Anything is possible. You can do it. You just have to believe, right? That's the foundational key to everything, right? And after that is action. So
Incredible. You know what? I think, Dave, this is probably the fastest we've had anybody fly through these questions.
Absolutely.
You can tell that you just operate with speed. Like that is
Well,
so clear.
he is the accelerator, you know.
Exactly.
No, I have a question for you though, Arthur. We've asked some of our other guests this. Are you when you're writing things down, are you a computer and phone guy, or are you a piece of paper and pen guy?
Paper and again, as I mentioned before, I'm rather unorganized, so I made myself basically finish notebooks. So I just bought myself. I found the perfect notebook that I liked that worked for me because I tried many different ones, and I just would do a quarter of the notebook, then toss it and start a new notebook, etc. So I found these perfect ones for me specifically, and then proud to say I finished now like, I don't know, 20, 30 of them. So I just date everything, write it down for the day. It's also a great way to like actually keep notes on meetings and things like that, right? Things to follow up with. And then whatever is important in terms of like actual scheduling, then I just put it in a calendar immediately. But I find it visually, it's much easier for me to have to look at a piece of paper than a computer. So
that seems to be the answer from a lot of business people. You'd think with our society and technology and everything else, everything would be like my laptop or my phone, but I'd say 90% come back with the old pen and paper.
There's no distractions there, right? Because let's say if I want to use like notes or something on my phone, I open it up. Guess what? I'm going to see a notification from my Facebook, whatever, LinkedIn, whatnot. So all of a sudden I'm distracted, right? So this way, this is like my Bible. I go to it. I know this is what I have to do. There's no distractions there. It's just,
Yeah, and there's no greater feeling than taking that pen and just putting a line through something you just finished.
Yeah. Simon Sinek talks about that. He's like, even if you did a task and you didn't write it down and cross it off because you like a nice dopamine hit.
Okay, now a quick question with the accelerator. I mean, you've got so much going on there, and it's a huge environment. What's some of the big projects that you guys have coming up?
So right now we're just going through the sort of the next phase of the next chapter of our growth. So we really want to get out of the whole building management. Obviously we're going to have a lot of space to rent out at the accelerator, but we want to focus more on delivering the services and working a little closer with our entrepreneurs, right? Providing the hands-on services, because owning a 55,000 square foot building is an absolute, it's a job in itself, right? So we're doing that while trying to manage, helping our entrepreneurs. So we really want to get away from that side of the business and focus more on delivering the programs and working one-on-one with our startups. Pushing the GAMIC program, the Global Automotive and Mobility Innovation Challenge. So I sit on the board of that. It started about 15 years ago. We're running our 16th challenge this year. So last year we had 1,500 global mobility and automotive companies apply. We have quarterfinals, semifinals, and then the finals at Huntington Place in Detroit. And the goal is to bring some of those companies to Windsor, right? We are the North American landing pad for GAMIC, and it's much easier for global companies, let's say from Europe or Asia, et cetera, to come establish a base in Canada and then do business both in Canada and the US. And on the other front is just building the ecosystem and the culture of entrepreneurship here. So we were very fortunate. Teppermint is sponsoring our high school program, which we've been running for like 9 years. And I remember when we first started that, we did exit interviews with the students, and we asked, how many of you would want to be an entrepreneur or work for a startup when you graduate from university, college, et cetera? And about 20% said yes. And the last time we ran it in 2019 in person before COVID, it was like 90%. So massive, shift. And then we had a hiatus with COVID, and we had it again this year. We hosted it for the first time in person since COVID, and the numbers are around 70. So it's dropped a little bit, I think, because of COVID. But I think you're definitely seeing the shift in the younger population in terms of either wanting to start their own business or social enterprise or work for a startup because of the flexibility and the culture. So,
traditionally, well, my granddaughter's in high school, and she's right now she's in the marketing class, and she's surprised at how many of the kids at 15 and 16 years old are already talking about running their own business and heading in that direction. I think it's phenomenal.
What do you attribute that to, do you think?
I think for Windsor specifically, just being having access to all the information available through social media has really opened everybody's mind. Seeing all the side hustles that you can have. And I think ultimately, culturally we're changing. We're very much a factory automotive focused town, but not everybody wants to necessarily pursue that as a future. So I think people are trying to find their purpose, their passion, and I think entrepreneurship is a great way to do that. And also historically high unemployment. So if you can't find a job, create a job. Now you have all the tools necessary, right? So, you've got Amazon, you've got social media to help you with your marketing. So it's probably
you've got AI nowadays, and there's so many directions.
It's so easy to create a website or get a Stripe account or whatever it's going to be, right? Like the barrier to entry is just not there that it once used to be.
Absolutely, right? I mean, you can compete with the big guys right now from your basement, right? Or from the Accelerator, or from, So, I think it's this is the new renaissance, I think, for entrepreneurship, the time we live in.
I think you've been, as you said, the Accelerator's been around for 12 years, and I think you were definitely ahead of your time, with what you were starting to do, what you were doing. Are you seeing more growth? Are more companies,
absolutely
contacting and reaching out?
Absolutely. Just like, we're going through our, analytics, and like we have 2 to 3 companies reach out every week now. We've had companies come from, one on a entrepreneur visa from India, one just moved down from Vancouver to basically take advantage of Windsor in terms of its proximity to the US. Also, we're seeing a lot of automotive and mobility companies that are either looking for, space for their teams, or they're looking to land here. So I'm talking to a few of the gamut companies that are interested in moving into the Accelerator. The other nice thing is Canada does offer a great deal of incentives for R&D, right? So you have shred credits, you have programs like MyTax. There's a lot of things that Canada offers the US doesn't. So we're a very attractive place. So having a lot of those conversations. So I think we're just scratching the surface in Windsor. The battery plant, I think, was a sort of a
big
wake up call for everybody in Canada of how important, and the US and North America really, to how important Windsor is to the economic future of our continent.
For sure. What's a final piece of advice you want to share with people who are watching or listening to this?
So I would definitely say connect with great people, connect with people who can help you and want to support your entrepreneurial journey. I think you have to have a community. If you don't have, Dave and I have been going back, like he said, many, many years, but you want to have people that are like-minded, that understand what you're trying to do and are going to support you, right? We all want to be our, cheerleaders for each other, right? That's how we're going to create a great community. We want as many winners as possible and as many role models as possible for the next generation, because that's what's going to inspire them to take the leap and believe they can also do it, right?
100%. Thank you so much, Arthur, for your time today and sharing your wisdom and what you're doing for the community in this region as well. It's absolutely just phenomenal. So thank you so much for being on the show.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks, Chris. Dave, always a pleasure. Thank you guys.
Appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, this is a great format. You guys are doing great work. Really
appreciate
it.
Yeah. Well, everyone, that's a wrap for this week's episode. Thank you again for joining us at that crossroads of really velocity and curiosity. Keep moving, keep questioning, and stay tuned for another episode of Rapid Fire Insights.